get started. Good day, everybody. Here they are. All right, good morning, everyone. This is the regular monthly open meeting of the 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, January 17th, 2023, and it's 9:30 a.m. We are in the boardroom, as well as available for viewing on TV6, Zoom, and Granicus. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I see that we have a quorum, and you may notice that our quorum includes a new third board director. May I introduce Andy Ginocchio, who was selected by the other members of the board to fill one of our open director positions. Welcome, Andy. And as a reminder, there's still one more open director position, so if you want to help improve your community for yourself and your neighbors, please apply. All right, we'll start today's meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Director Jim Cook. Jim?
If you could stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks, Jim. It's now time to approve today's agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda? Donna moves, Ira seconds. Any suggested changes to it?
Yes. It's Kush.
I figured as much. What would you like to change, Kush?
Excuse me. Item 13D on page 4 of 6 needs a small correction.
Okay. In that you don't want to approve the committee updates?
No, I do, but there is an error in there. That
Got it. We'll get to that when we cover 13D. This is just approving the agenda itself.
Okay. So go ahead and approve it.
Okay. So I'll make sure I call on you when we get to 13D. I know of some changes that need to be made as well. Maybe ours are the same. Thank you.
Probably.
Any other comments regarding the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we'll consider today's agenda approved by consent. We're now looking to approve meeting minutes for 3 different meetings. Why don't we address each of them separately? So first, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for last month's open board meeting held on December 20th? I see Chris moved. Ralph seconds. Thank you. Any suggested changes to those meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, and Kush, feel free to just raise your hand if you want to speak. I'm looking at the Zoom, so that way I'll know. So hearing none, we'll consider those minutes approved by consent. Can I get a motion to approve next the meeting minutes for the agenda prep meeting held on January 6th? Chris moves. Ralph seconds again. Thank you both. Any suggested changes to those meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, we will approve those by consent as well. And finally, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the special board meeting where this board selected a new third board director, also held on January 6th? So I see Ira moves and Andy seconds. Thank you both. Any suggested changes to those minutes? All right, seeing none, we'll consider those approved by consent. Great. Now we're going to move on to agenda item 5, which is the report of the chair. As many of you know, I send out an email about things going on within Third Mutual on most Wednesdays. Members have to opt in to receive those emails. So if you're not receiving them and you would like to, please send me an email and I will get you added to that distribution list going forward. I mention these emails because 3 weeks ago I invited those who received them to share feedback regarding what they felt the top priority of third board should be to address this year. Other than reducing or not raising our assessments, which I figured everybody would feel was their top priority. I received 115 member priorities for third, and the details of which I've shared with the third board directors. So I want everybody to know that you can be assured that we will review and consider all of the input received. Many of the priorities that we received were ones that the boards are already looking at in some way, shape, or form, but some of the information we received provided different perspectives for our consideration. Today, I thought I'd share a verbal summary of the key priorities submitted. I assigned each priority to a category just so I didn't have too many slides to go through. And this slide shows the number of priorities I received by category. That's up on the screen there for you. The area that received the most priorities was landscaping, with the overall top member priority being to improve third landscaping. Other landscaping related priorities include transition to water-wise plantings, and focusing on irrigation maintenance, pest control, and replacing removed trees. Maintenance came in second, featuring such priorities as improving EV charging capabilities, upgrading manor pipes, implementing more proactive maintenance measures, and implementing more solar panels, and resolving issues in garden villa buildings and parking areas. Compliance-related priorities included enforcing clutter issues in a more timely manner and greater overall enforcement of violations. Some members actually submitted requests for some new rules, which we'll be looking at. And there were actually a couple of suggestions to ease up on some of the enforcement of some violations. Manor alterations received several suggestions, including improving the processes and speed for handling alterations requests, improving instructions for member installed solar panels, and allowing for different types of variances. Priorities to the board included continuing to improve communication, encouraging members to join the board, and working with other mutuals for common benefit. And to round out the rest of the list, several members suggested we focus on improving the responsiveness and respectfulness of staff, reduce the cost of insurance, speed the resales process, simplify the lease renewal process, and fix organic recycling issues. Again, we're considering all of the suggested priorities received, and I look forward to providing you all with updates on our progress in the weeks ahead. I also wanted to mention that I received 24 suggested priorities that are within the responsibility of GRF rather than third, and those include things like amenities, amenity hours, security, and traffic. I shared all that information with the GRF board. Bunny Carpenter, the GRF board president, let me know that the GRF board is aware of all of those and is working on them. And she also requested that I advise third mutual residents to attend GRF board meetings and express their thoughts during member comments so that the GRF board can respond directly and provide details. Thanks to all members who shared their responses. Appreciate it. I enjoy getting input from our members, so thanks for that. On the bottom of that slide, if you can just keep it up just a little longer, if that's not too much trouble there. On the bottom of the slide, you'll see my email address. So if you didn't catch it, feel free to note it. Again, if you aren't receiving my Wednesday emails and would like to, please email me at thirdmutual@lagunawoodsvillage.com, and I'll work with staff to get you added to the distribution list. Also, feel free to email me anytime with suggestions, comments, questions, concerns, and I'll do my best to respond in an effective way. So that completes my remarks for today. As always, thanks for listening and thanks for your support. Moving on to agenda item 6, we'll now have an update from the VMS board. The VMS board president, Rosemarie DiLorenzo, is providing today's update. Good morning, Rosemarie.
Good morning, Mr. President, the third board, our staff, and the residents. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season and that this turns out to be a great new year for all of us if we ever get outside without our umbrellas. But the rain is good. Today, instead of having a very fancy with a lot of slides presentation, you can see that it is quite slim Siobhan was very glad that we had such a slim approach, and I wanted it to be simple so we could just really mention the things that we're working on and then, of course, answer any questions that you might have. The Employee Bright Idea Suggestion Program was started. I ran into Carrie in the parking lot, who is our Human Resource Director, and I said, how many suggestions do we have so far? We still have one, but because we still have one, she is re-emphasizing this with the department heads so that we could re-emphasize this with the employees. I thought there would be like so many, but no matter what, one is better than none, and we're going to keep working on that. Our continuous service improvement plan, which we did a presentation on, is going into effect this month. And this is the plan where if a matter comes up and we aren't quite able to handle it, it moves up to the next level. So whatever we're doing, we're trying to improve our service. I believe that this plan or this program of operation, which we use always in the hospitality industry, will also work in the area that we discussed, I believe it was last week, about instead of if somebody comes in, for example, to manor alterations, and they say, well, I didn't do that alteration, so we can't have the residents be wrong. So it's going to help us correct any situation where the residents might have an issue. It will be able to raise things to a next level so that we can, instead of saying, okay, we won't charge you for it, which isn't a good approach either, but we'll have some help to get things settled correctly and positively for our residents. The VMS Strategic Plan Update meeting is on January 25th, and I'm sure, Mark, that you have handed in the names of the people who will be attending the meeting. All of us were asked to do the harassment prevention training online. I know I finally did, and this time I printed my certificate. But the only problem I have with it is you wish it would go a little faster. Like you keep one twist that. I read that already. So, but in any case, for those of us who are impatient, that's how things are. So you just do something else while you're doing that. But it is good training, so I hope that all of you have completed that. Remember, we're supposed to give a copy of our certificate to Carrie, takes care of that. Our key KPIs, our key performance indicators, were worked on by your president, there's president, myself, Wei Ming, Siobhan, and our staff. And we should be getting our first report on those that we indicated were good indicators in February. And we are having hopefully the last planning of the finalization of the bylaws, which on Monday, January 23rd, and hopefully we'll get through it then. So those are the things we're working on right now. Just for all of you who haven't seen it, I put in the copy of the Bright Idea program. So then I'll touch on February. In February, which is right around the corner, we're going to focus on the priorities. We were already sent the priorities by your president, and we knew that landscape was a priority. So landscape is going to be the first of our customer service meetings, the second Monday in February. I was surprised because I thought insurance would be right up there, because usually, or I've told Mark, a few people have said to me, well, I love the notice that he sends out weekly, but he should talk more about insurance. How much could you say? But I know that you're working very diligently in some new approaches to the insurance. So that is positive. And I also have been told that you're hopefully working with United on the insurance. So that is a good thing, because it's really good, as you all know, to work with the other boards and not work against the other boards. One of the things that has been brought up is identifying services for possible contracting opportunities. You know, we have certain things that we do contract out, like the slopes, like we contract out the tree trimming. But what are other things that we could contract out? So we're looking for those, because those are important ways for us to improve conditions in the workplace, actually improve our bottom line, because a lot of times we think that if we contract things out, it's going to cost more. But when you look at all of the benefits associated with it, contracting things out can be very positive. I know in my former life, we started contracting out a lot. We would close laundries, close bakeries, because you were able to get a better product, better service from people who specialize in that one area. So we are looking at those. We're working with Siobhan and with the department heads to try to figure out what is some opportunities for contracting things out. We are planning for a spring real estate forum because we were told, and we know that that's very important. We need input from our real estate people, so that should be coming up soon. Again, I already mentioned the client service meeting for landscaping, and the website redesign is moving forward. There's so many other things going on that I'm not going to take the thunder away from our CEO nor from this board, but those are the things that I know that the VMS board gets involved with our CEO and with the staff. If anyone has any questions, otherwise I'll run back to my seat.
Great. Thanks, Rosemary. Anybody have questions? Ira?
Just one little, maybe awkward question.
Go ahead.
I'm happy that you are moving forward on all these things because they are needed, and it will make everything here work better. Do you have anything in place? I'm not going to ask specifically, but do you have anything in place when you have, let's say, an older employee, I don't care what department it's in, that doesn't really want to change to the new method of whatever in their department because they've been doing the same thing for X number of years and they think it's better? Do you have processes in place to be able to educate and retrain these employees in the newer method of doing business, let's say?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's a part of business. I remember from all of us, we probably all had to read a book at one time called Embracing Change. Remember how you want to fight change? So you have to do that at every level. So if we have some employees, and I think I know where you're going and you don't want to be specific, even if it's a union employee, they have to work according to the rules and regulations that we have in order to deliver the optimum of service, exceed our residents' expectations. So yes, we do have something in place, and if there's something that particularly bothers you, you should either, as a committee chair, you should talk to the department head, and if that isn't big enough, you should talk to Siobhan or Carlos, because as you know, Carlos is responsible for operations. But yes, we do have something in place. Anything else?
Great.
Anything else?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Rosemary. Thank you very much. Appreciate the update. All right, we're now moving on to agenda item 7, which is our open forum. At this time, members may address the Board of Directors regarding items within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors and not on the agenda. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum to 30 minutes. Each member is asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum, and speakers may not give their time to other people. Members not in the boardroom can also share their comments by joining this meeting via Zoom or by emailing your comments to meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during this open forum, should time permit. Michaela, Paul, are there any requests by members to speak or be heard?
Yes, we have a few. The first one is from John Jacob.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm here regarding an item that was submitted to the board and to VMS on June 27th. Whatever results came from that were minuscule at most. And the only thing I like to comment, I sent this so everybody could see it. The complaint was family disturbances, loud, abusive language, slamming of doors, banging of objects, etc., cooking of food and burning of trash that smells of cannabis, maintenance of a large collection of potted plants, allowing standing water to collect, attracting mosquitoes, cockroaches, and other pests, parking of 2 cars and a golf cart in violation of the spirit of the rules and regulations by rotating the vehicle in such a manner to block others from the guest parking for hours or days at a time. The violations of the rules and regulations have continued, and on January 28th, the city police had to be called to quiet the disturbance. It appears VMS has not been effective in controlling the conduct of a guest staying with the owner of the unit. The only response I've had from the board of directors or VMS is a letter advising me I had not called the security department. In addition, I should call the security department when a violation occurs so they can be substantiated by a security officer. I would advise the board of directors it's not necessary for a member to call security or for the board of directors to take legal action to control a person's actions. The rules and regulations can be effective with signed letters of complaint. I go on to say my personal experience. I have 10 years as a police officer. I retired as a lieutenant in training of officers. I spent 15 years in the insurance business as an agent and broker, and I spent 40 years as a resident of property owner and manager of single, multifamily, and commercial property. So I'm not here just to complain, but the members who asked me to appear here have signed that letter. We presented it to the board on June 27th, and to date, that guy is still being a nuisance and a pest, and we'd like something done about it. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? I'll try to answer. I would like to say that, on an aside, that enforcement of rules and regulations really is of paramount importance to have a neatly running operation. If you don't enforce the rules, it's nothing. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir.
Next speaker is Chris Collins.
Good morning, Chris Collins, 3306Q. I'm here with an update on the work of the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village on behalf of residents in need. Thank you. A great idea, a great deal to be grateful for. Holiday cheer can take many forms, and for the Foundation, it meant that we once again were able to provide holiday cheer to some 125 residents. With the help of social services and the South County Outreach Food Pantry, the Foundation was able to identify those in need of such cheer and provided them with grocery cards to ensure that they had a special holiday meal, something which they may not have had otherwise. We would not have been able to do this without the generous donations of individual clubs and other organizations in the village. These donations and support are particularly appreciated by the Foundation, which celebrated its 25th anniversary this year. This year, the Foundation was able to continue its emergency financial assistance to residents, funding Meals on Wheels, providing scholarships to Alzheimer's support services, transport residents to the food pantry, and sustain fall prevention efforts, among many other ongoing programs. In addition to all the individual residents who have donated, the Foundation is also extremely grateful to the following clubs, religious organizations, and other groups that donated this past year, particularly because many of them had limited meetings due to the continuing effects of the pandemic. So those, some of the organizations are Bethesda Ministries, Baby Boomers, California Club, Chicago Club, College Club, Crazy Quilters, Democratic Club of Laguna Woods, Joyful Christian Church, Laguna Woods United Methodist Church, Lawn Bowling Club, Lutheran Church of the Cross, Men's Golf Club, Needlework Club, Publishing Club, Republican Club of Laguna Woods, RV Wheelers, Sewing Supers, Tennis Club, Taiwanese Club, Topic Masters, and Tops Club. So we would send you best wishes for the new year, filled with much joy and vibrant hope, and we certainly thank you for your generous support of the Foundation. It's truly neighbors helping neighbors. So for more information, please go to our website at foundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org or contact by phone at 949-268-2246 or foundation@comline.com. Please note that donations can also be made using PayPal on the foundation website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Cheryl Fennick.
I just want to thank you for the foundation. I do Meals on Wheels, and it's really gratifying and well needed. Today I want to talk to you about plumbing rule. I had a shower problem. It's my responsibility. I called my home warranty company. They said they'll have a plumber out between 8 and 12 o'clock. I said, great. And then I called up administration and customer service, and I said, okay, I need to have the water turned on and off. This begins the adventure. And they said to me, it's a 2-hour rule. And I thought, well, now I have my plumbers 8 to 12. 4 hours is standard in the industry. You guys, we have to wait 4 hours for a cable guy and you're plumbers, so it's not unusual. Yet, this board approved a 2-hour. Now, I'm for rules. If you don't have rules, you're heading, you can keep out chaos. But sometimes rules on paper don't often work in reality. So here I am. I have a 4-hour plumber coming. I'm taking responsibility. I am not going to turn off the water to the building, which so many people do, because I understand you had the rule because you don't want to break the plumbing. It's expensive. So you call up and follow it. So they're telling me what 2 hours you want the guy to come out. I don't know. I don't know when the plumbers are going to come out. They're coming between 8 and 12. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to ask you guys to tell me what you would do when you have 4 hours and 2 hours that you have to make a decision. Your staff, Ms. Foster, is fabulous. I had Seth and Stacy, and I even called Connie and the general manager. I mean, I was so frustrated after I took my blood pressure pill, of course. It was, what was I supposed to do? What is a resident? Oh, and the part two is, for this pleasure, you pay $25, which again, it's okay. You have staff using it. Not only do you pay $25, you have to pay a portion of a $71 and change charge for the plumber to come out to go right, turn it off, left, 2 hours later to turn it on. But, so let's say I have the water come on at 8 o'clock, so he comes, he turns it off, he comes back at 10 and turns it on, and my plumbers come at 10:30. So what am I supposed to do? Call up, go through resident service again, because you don't have you can't call them directly. And my plumbers are not going to wait around for 30 minutes for you guys to come. It's insane. The rule is rational, but the application of it doesn't work. And you have to help us out here. And we have to pay money and additional monies for the pleasure of that. Why not just $25? Why do we have to pay the plumber $71 to come out, turn off, and turn on? Again, the rule is appropriate. You have to control. You can't have a resident turn the building water on and off because you know the chaos that will pursue from that. Help. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all for open forum. There is a member comment for agenda item 12A, but I'll let you know at that time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody who spoke. Any directors have any comments or questions or things they want to say? Yes,
I'll
Jim?
make a comment about the plumbers.
Okay.
When I had to do mine, I just made sure my plumber gave me a specific time to arrive, and they will give you a little bit of an extension over the 2 hours if the case takes longer. But plumbers that work in the village have to understand that under the rules, they need to be there at a specific time. So I asked my plumber, when can you be here? I'll try and schedule it for that time. So I don't know how to get around it a different way than how I did it. And I agree with you, it seems kind of steep, $25 to schedule them to come and turn it off and turn it on, and then 5 minutes and you get charged prorated fees on the $71. To me, that seems inappropriate. It should just be a single charge for coming and shutting it off and turning it on. But as far as the 4-hour window for your plumber, you have to get your plumber to come at the time that you schedule the shut-off.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Kush, looks like you have a question or comment?
Yes. I'd like to know what building does Mr. Jacob live in? The building number.
3249.
Got it.
Thanks. All right. So yeah, Mr. Jacob, I will work with staff and understand where we are with this situation, and I will get back to you. I will get back with you and let you know what I find. So just letting you know that. Ms. Collins, thank you, and thanks for bringing it to our attention. Thank you. Ms. Collins, as always, thanks for the update. Good work being done by the foundation. And Ms. Fennick, we have a board member saying something he even feels inappropriate to him. So when things feel inappropriate to us, we'll kind of take a look at it. So we will look at the rule, see if there's any adjustment we can make, work with staff to understand why that rule. I don't believe this board, the members here, put that in place. So we'll relook at it and see if it's still. So definitely a board, but it may have been made 6 years ago, in other words. So we may have a different perspective, and we'll work with staff. Staff has changed as well over those times. So, as Jim has mentioned, as we've all really mentioned, one of the things that we're trying to do is look at all of the rules and make sure that they make sense. That one now is going to move up on the list. All right? So thank you. Thanks for bringing it up. All right. Any other comments before we move on? All right, thank you. Agenda item 9. Something new here, we're trying here. Third board meetings, we're going to have some department updates at these third board meetings where one of the leaders of VMS will give a short presentation about their organization to make sure our members are aware of the leaders, the departments, and the key activities being worked within VMS. Joining us today is Eileen Paulin. She's going to tell us a little bit about the media and communications organization which she manages. Eileen is coming on up. Good morning, and thanks for sharing what you're going to share.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Some of you have heard this presentation a little bit because we met yesterday. The Media and Communications Committee, by the way, so everybody knows, meets the third Monday at 1:30 here in the boardroom. And since I gave this presentation to the VMS open board meeting, I felt that the MACC meeting should also be aware of it. So they can answer probably some questions that we may have. And thank you to those of you that are on the third board that serve on our ad hoc committees as well. So the purpose of our department should be fairly obvious, and that is that we are here to make sure that we have as good of a communication system as possible. I will tell you that one of the very first things I hear every time a director joins the board is, what do you think needs to be fixed? And it's communication. And that is true. And that is because communicating with a large community like this is very difficult. We have a number of initiatives that we have probably done 15 to 20 different outreaches on, and we'll still have a resident say, I didn't know, you never told me. So our job is to continue to just hit away at that and try to make sure that you have a very well-informed community. The other thing that we are now in charge of, which is a relatively new development, is the broadband services has moved in under our umbrella. First, it was the great team at TV6 that moved in, merged with the department, and now it's broadband services. I'd like to just talk just really quickly about the work centers that we have in our group. And the work centers, when you look at your annual budget, you directors know it is the green book, but the residents all received this in the mail at the end of the year, which is the budget for 2023. You'll see work centers have a number. So we have 5 in our group. First one is 10, and that's our media and communications admin. That is where you're getting your weekly e-blasts from, a lot of the recreation information, all the beautiful flyers and posters that you see out there. The magazine comes out of this group. We work on a lot of presentations for board members, staff members. We coordinate appearances. We we like to work very closely with some of the associations that are out there, the GBA being one that has a great relationship with us as far as getting department head speakers out. That's the Gardenville Association, which is in third. Work Center 20 is our cable TV network and broadband. So sometimes people kind of say, well, what's that? It's your television and your internet here in the village. It's all broadband. The next work center is 30, which is a TV studio. TV6 brings you a daily news program 6 days a week. It airs very popular movies. I'm happy to say that now that we're behind with the pandemic, there's a lot of good things coming out of Hollywood and the other content providers, and we've been able to really get some just very interesting movies. They're very popular. And then we also work with the clubs, because part of the charter of the TV station is that the clubs have access and can do shows. So that's an important part of it. And then 40 is our media services. That's the quiet group that you don't hear a whole lot out of, but they bring to us close to $1 million in ad revenue a year. Happy to tell you that even though we were off to a kind of a rough start in 2022, just because of the pandemic, the election served us very well. And so we had a really nice hard finish to the revenue for the year. 50 is internet service, and that is a partnership that I know most of you are aware of with West Coast Internet. They actually bring the signal in here to the village. They handle all of the billing, what speed levels you might be at. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But they also, that is a 50-50 partnership between us, but we work very closely on the actual infrastructure itself. I noted that I have a little error, so slide 6, would you mind just pushing that one all the way to the back, and then I will just keep going. We did focus groups. You heard briefly about that this year. That was at the direction of the VMS Board of Directors. We had 6 groups come in with the outside moderator. It was not done to be, like we've had some people comment like, how scientific was it? It wasn't really meant to be scientific. It was meant to bring together different groups, and we did concentrate on having, for instance, one group of people that were not necessarily native English speakers that are living here in the village. We had another one that we knew for sure weren't really as well connected electronically, so we just wanted to get a good cross-section. And I could be here for hours giving you some of the feedback. It was very, very good. But the main things that came out of it is more out-front communication. And I will use the example that a lot of residents feel that when they listen or come to a meeting, and I'm sure there's many people watching today, they don't know about something until it comes to your 28-day review. And at that point, and a lot of people don't understand necessarily what 28-day review is. That's one of the messages that we're going to be working on. Many people assume that it's automatically been voted on by the board, and that's not the case. The reason for 28 days is to give a comment period. For a lot of these initiatives, that's a little too late for some residents to make their comments known. And so we really have to push, first of all, committee attendance. That's very, very important where we are. But people want to know about these things. So what we did with this recent West Coast Internet rate increase and speed improvement was, as soon as the GRF agenda posted, which is the week before the meeting, we put it in the blast. And we started getting it out there in front so people could digest it. We put a link to the staff report so they could see all the background information. And we made sure that we kept reminding people right before the December meeting when it went on 28-day. And then we reminded them again that the meeting the first week of January is when the vote would take place. And we found that that was very effective because people really seemed to understand much better. The other thing is, no big surprise, better website. We are already working on that. I'm happy to report. As was the group, the focus groups, but they also gave us some great ideas for the kinds of things that they want to see, which we added into the RFP. Another thing that was very, very important was a comprehensive, all-encompassing village calendar. And we put that as well into the RFP to the vendors that we're talking to about the website. And what that means is people are saying, right now they can go to the website and look at the governance calendar and know what meetings are, but then they have to go to another place to find out what classes are going on that day or what club events are taking place. They'd like to see everything married together. So that's something that is on our list of things that the new website will be able to do. On the next slide, I just really quickly, it's a kind of a complex map, but I want to, let's see, this should be slide 9. There we go. This is a photo or a drawing of the infrastructure which carries your cable and your internet to your home. It's buried under your feet, so every time you go out for a walk, you drive your car, you're driving over the infrastructure. The last major update to this system was done quite a few years ago, and the system is aging. So this is something that we formed a website ad hoc committee. I'm looking at some of the members right here, and by the time they're done, they're going to be able to have a master's degree, I think, in infrastructure. But this has been a very busy ad hoc group, and I just have a few stats here just in a minute. But I just want to give you a quick update on cable TV, first of all. So this would be slide 10. Our truck rolls are down considerably, and one of the reasons that we feel that this is the case is that we have a full-time customer service representative over in the head end building who is basically hand-holding, giving white glove service. And if we are able to solve a problem and not have to roll a truck, it's a good thing. And one of the reasons it's a good thing is because of the aging infrastructure and the amount of time that our techs have to use finding some of the older parts. Literally, sometimes over there soldering to the things to keep the infrastructure going at the reduced costs that we're able to do it, to provide you with service. It's much less if you've moved in here recently from Cox or Spectrum. It's a nice surprise to find out how reasonable your TV and internet services are. I want to just point out, because it's something that is a big initiative, and that is if you just take a look at the paid TV channels, because people can pay for these premium channels, our subscriptions are way down. And the reason for that, people are streaming. They're not buying Showtime anymore. They're streaming. And this is something that is a very big part of what's going on in the world outside of our gates. And our ad hoc committee, our broadband ad hoc committee, is really coming up to speed on understanding that. One of the other big challenges that we have in that arena is that our programming costs are going way, way up. What's happening in the industry? Fewer people, let's raise the price because we've got to try to stay in business. And we have projected as staff that by 2025, your programming expenses are going to be $5 million or more. And we are sort of trying to lead everybody to understand that we really have to prepare for the future and for streaming, which is one reason as to why we have to make sure that the fiber that we have in place and what we're bringing into the home is state of the art. I just added real quickly a little slide 12. This is the page, and you can read this later, but it's a page from the consultant that we used, the broadband network, and basically it's informing us something that, again, we discuss in these meetings, and that is that just cable is coming to an end, and we have got to be ready for it. And the way we have to be ready for it is decide what to do. We can skip to 14. So that ad hoc committee, again, I have to really thank James and Chris are on that committee, and they've really spent a great deal of time becoming educated along as ourselves getting educated. We have 3 scenarios that we're looking at right now. One of them is probably not ideal, but it's status quo. What happens if let's look 5-10 years out if we don't do anything? What is that going to cost? What's that going to look like? That financial analysis has been completed, and that will be the one that we look at our next ad hoc committee. The second one is we go all in. We are the owner of the system, and we make a substantial investment in the latest fiber and get it installed here in the village. The beauty of that one is there's a good potential for it being a very good revenue source going into the future, which will help reduce HOA fees. So that's one thing that we got pros and cons on everything. That will be the next financial model that we'll be taking a look at. And then the third scenario is going into a partnership with somebody, a situation we might choose to lease. And when I say we, these are decisions that the board members are making, not staff, to partner with there are a lot of different providers who might come in here and want to lease the system for us and work on it that way, which would reduce the upfront investment. But again, it would be, we don't have as much control. and we don't have as much access to future revenue. So the key initiatives that we are really focused on right now going into the new year is this, what I call out-front communication. Really trying to, I'm starting to become a pest, and I apologize for that, but coming to the board presidents and reminding you, for instance, I would like to think that at your closed session this afternoon, you might take a few minutes at the end of the meeting and identify what committee initiatives are being worked on right now that you really would like to see people paying attention to. And we will get that information out to the residents in several ways. The website obviously is our big initiative. We have the RFPs in. We have a meeting in the end of this month, the last Tuesday of the month, with that website ad hoc committee to take a look at those RFPs. So that we have done so. We have evaluated them, but we want you to do the same thing. So that is coming up. And then finally, the broadband ad hoc group. So those are the big areas that we're working on for 2023, in addition to everything else that we already do. And that's the end of my report. So have at me.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that information. Hopefully our members got a little more information about the Media and Communications Organization than they knew before. Any questions, comments? Ira, looks like you have something to say.
Oh, just a quick one. Thank you for sending an email out to everybody about the change in the speeds and the cost. But there was one thing most importantly missing from that email is if you desire a change, whether it be up or down, when and how to accomplish that.
Well, I'll have to answer that question on behalf of West Coast Internet because that did not come from us. It came from your vendor supplier. The easy answer is you call them and you make arrangements to change the level. That was mentioned to me before the meeting. I have not seen the letter because, again, it came from West Coast Internet. We do have a policy on anything we send out. It has to have a name and a number for people, but I'm sure that that was an oversight on their part, and I will make sure that they get that feedback.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Kush, looks like you have a hand up.
Yes, thank you. Eileen, I must commend you. This department has made a significant change ever since you have joined the organization. I was on the board much before you joined, and I noticed this change, and that is tremendous. On one of your slides, you mentioned about the fiber. I want to confirm that the wire that is running underneath is the real fiber optic cable, or is it the cable TV cable?
There is fiber in the ground right now. It is old. It's aging. And part of the issue with it is we don't know what the life of that is, and it's coming to the end. So it's not just copper in the ground. The copper is just from the curb into your home right now. Okay. And the new way of living is something we call FTH, fiber to the home. So that would be part of any upgrade.
Correct. So I must commend the person who thought about this infrastructure for having foresight and putting fiber in the ground. But anyway, as you say, it is old and needs to be probably upgraded at some point or the other.
I will put a little plug out. Paul Ortiz, who is the brains behind an awful lot of this, and it's always very important to me that I bring him up. I might be the mouth, but he's the brains with this whole infrastructure. He is going to be speaking on Thursday night to the video club about the future of broadband in the village. I'm sure that we don't want to pack their meeting, but it would be a great opportunity for anybody that wants to spend a little more time asking some questions and getting up to speed on it.
Great, thanks. Again, Kush, were you done, or since your hand is still up, just want to make sure we...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, great. Jim, did you want to say something?
Just to add about our fiber optic cable, and when it was first put in, they estimated a 20-year lifespan, and ours is already 22 years old. So just to kind of emphasize that situation.
All right, getting old. All right, looking around, seeing other... I had one question. I've received several complaints about some commercials being too loud. Is there anything you and your TV team can do about that?
Well, yes and no. This is something that the networks have figured out, and it's just as I know exactly how annoying it is, which is part of the reason I don't watch too much network TV anymore. But anything that's inserted into the cable system that is not part of our ad program, we have no control over. However, if it is a local ad, and some of them do come in programmed louder, we can adjust them and turn them down. And I know you had one specific resident ask you a question about that, and we got right back to her that day and spoke to, well, it was Chris, so let's not assume it could be a gentleman as well, that this person identified the certain ads that were the most annoying to them. So they have worked on trying to adjust that a little bit. The problem is if you turn it down and then you go back to broadcast, then broadcast is down, and then people are like, I can't hear, what's going on. So they did do some adjustments. I looked into it. They did do some adjustments upstairs after they spoke with that resident, and it's kind of we just have to play it, see how it goes, because then somebody else calls and says it's too low, then we have an issue.
Okay. If somebody lets me know, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thanks. Any final things for Eileen? Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. If I could add something, this came up at the meeting yesterday, those of you that were there, that we should share this. So it just occurred to me. When we had the power outage last week, or the week before last, in the United area, it went, we had about 5,000 residents that were affected with that. The good news is it was brief. But it also obviously took your internet down because if you don't have electricity. And our team was immediately out in the field we have backup batteries, getting them all installed and ready to roll. The good news is the power came back on, but one of the media communications members said, that's a story people don't know. They were out there late at the night in the pouring rain trying to, make sure that despite the power outage, you could still get online. So that's a positive thing, and I just wanted to share it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good stuff. All right, moving on to agenda item 10, the CEO report. Yvonne, what do you got for us today?
Thank you, President. Honorable board members, this morning I wanted to share 3 operational updates. The first one pertains to Gate 12 entry procedures. These were highlighted in last Friday's What's Up in the Village e-blast. I'm also going to update you on additional hours at amenities and provide milestones of the tentative 2024 third mutual budget schedule. In May 2022, just about 6 months ago, technological safety upgrades were completed at Gate 12. If you'll recall, Gate 12 doesn't have access arms, so it's one of the few gates, or if not the only gate, that does not have access arms in the village. These safety upgrades included license plate recognition cameras on both outbound and inbound lanes at Gate 12, and overview cameras to capture incoming and outgoing vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic. Both measures are to increase safety and to understand who's coming and going at Gate 12. There are also safety procedures at Gate 12 that our gate ambassadors who are employed by our security department follow. And these are for added security to mitigate non-residents' use of the golf course, lawn bowling facilities, and pickleball courts, and to comply with the contractual obligations for the 19 restaurant and lounge that's in that location. So security is required to check IDs at Gate 12. And I know this has been done inconsistently, but we're trying to be more consistent about it moving forward. Again, we've gotten a lot of alerts that non-residents are coming in to use our facilities. So when a resident invites a non-resident guest to meet at Restaurant 19 or to use one of the amenities, golf, lawn bowling, and pickleball, the guest must accompany the resident in their vehicle or immediately follow the resident through the gate, and the resident must notify the gate ambassador of the guest or be authorized in the gate clearance system. A guest can be entered into the gate clearance system by calling resident services or making the entry via the resident portal, which we highly recommend. As a reminder, guest passes, hard copy passes issued by resident services or printed via Dwelling Live are not accepted at Gate 12. This is because the printed guest passes can be issued for up to a year by resident services, so that is too broad a period of time. And printing of any of the passes at the gatehouse by the gate ambassador takes time and would back up traffic at that location. So the best bet is to use the electronic system to enter your guests. This morning, I also wanted to touch on additional hours for our amenities. In the month of December, VMS had a very good month hiring new employees. There were 28 new hires, 13 full-time employees, and 15 part-time employees. This was offset by 9 departures for a net gain of 19 employees joining VMS in December. Many of these hires were in our recreation department, which allows VMS to continue to add amenity hours. Specifically, recreation staff is now taking reservations for clubhouses 2 and 7 for events. And table tennis hours have been expanded for extended play. Table tennis is now available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., and weekend hours are from noon to 5 p.m. As we look forward, we're hoping to again have a positive hiring environment, and so we're striving to add room reservations at the Performing Arts Center. At Clubhouse 6, we're striving to add additional days for reservations. At Clubhouse 4, we want to add weekday availability from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., and on weekends from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., and then from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. So that's kind of on the horizon for us. Similarly, we want to add back more hours at the fitness centers. That would be early morning hours at the community center fitness center during the week, as well as the Clubhouse 1 fitness center during the week. There are also some evening hours that we're hoping to add back Monday through Friday at both centers. And Thursday nights, we want to extend the hours a bit further at those centers. So looking ahead, that is where we will focus our efforts as additional staff joins VMS, which again, we're strategizing for. And lastly, I wanted to draw your attention to the budget calendar that's on the screen, or coming up on the screen. I just wanted to touch on the key dates for Third Mutual, and the entire calendar is going to be presented to you, so I'm not jumping the gun too much here. But the whole process kicks off in March with departmental workshops. This involves participation by all boards. The capital review is slated for May 23rd. This is a GRF board activity, but I know that all the mutuals follow this closely. Third Mutual will have a maintenance review of the maintenance activities on May 31st. The landscape review will take place on June 1st. The business plan review will start on July 13th, and then there'll be a business plan review that's televised on August 10th, followed hopefully by business plan adoption at the regularly scheduled board meeting on September 19th. Again, all this information will be shared with everyone, but we wanted to give you a preview this morning so you know what to expect as we move forward with the 2024 business plan. And that concludes my update this morning. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Siobhan. Any questions? Jim?
Yeah, just a clarification on the guest entry for Gate 12, because you kind of went through it pretty quickly. What is not allowed under the guest entry? Is it just the printed ones that you have issued that can be issued up to a year?
That's correct, the printed ones. But if you haven't guest registered in the gate clearance system, that will be accepted.
Okay, so you can use Dwelling Live in order to register a guest to enter at Gate 12.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to do a clarification. Like I said, you went through it real quickly.
All right. Ira?
I know it's not your budget to do this. Do you know if there's any thoughts to putting in security gate arms at that particular gate entry and the one across the street to the tennis courts and other clubhouse to make things just the same?
We have discussed possibilities at the staff level. Again, we're with a recent attention here. We are seeing if anything else is possible. I know there may be topography challenges at one location, queuing challenges, et cetera. But again, everything will be considered moving forward.
Yeah, all right. I'm seeing no others. I had a question about Restaurant 19. Is that essentially only supposed to be open to members of the village and their guests versus Joe Blow coming from Mission Viejo, for instance?
Correct. There are liquor license requirements as well as the contract with the operator of the restaurant residents and their guests, or members and their guests are the patrons who are to be served, not the general public.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. I did not know that. All right. Okay. All right, moving on to agenda item 11, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. Today we'll ratify the preliminary financials for the month of November 2022 and approve, we aren't going to approve any requests for tree removals today. So just the November calendar, I believe. Can I get a motion to approve today's consent calendar? I see Ira move, Chris seconds. Thank you. Any disagreement with the financial report that we're being asked to approve? Okay, seeing none, we'll consider today's consent calendar approved by consent. Thank you all. Moving on to agenda item 12, unfinished business. Agenda item 12A is for the board to entertain a motion to approve revised architectural standards number 26, which is for skylight installations. These updates were suggested by the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. Last month, you may recall, we approved these changes for 28-day member review and comment. So today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve these changes for standard. First, I'd like Chris to read the resolution for us.
Revised Architectural Standard 26, Sky, whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend our alteration standards and create new alteration standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise Architectural Standard Section 26, Skylight Installation. Now therefore be it resolved, January 17th, 2023, that the Board of Directors of the Corporation hereby adopts the attached Architectural Standard 26 Skylight Installations, and resolve further that Resolution 03-18-92, adopted May 15, 2018, is hereby superseded in its entirety and no longer in effect, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve this updated revised standards for skylight installation? Jim moves, Ira seconds. Thank you. Are there any questions, comments from board members regarding this? Okay. Michaela, any questions, comments from any members?
Yes, so we received a member comment. They dropped it off in person downstairs, and they did not leave a name or manor number, but I'll go ahead and read it right now. They said, here's my member comment regarding third proposed change to the skylight rule. Please read at the next third board meeting. Dear board, I am commenting on the proposed change to the skylights rule. You propose allowing skylights to be larger than the space between the roof joists. That will require structural changes to those joists. Whenever you allow structural changes to our buildings, that increases the chance for serious damage to structure such as rain leaks, mold, and rot. It also adds to staff time to figure it all out. Please do not allow structural changes for the skylights. Keeping skylights the same size as the space between the joists is reasonable. Thank you, a third member. And that is all.
Okay, thanks. Anybody have any comments regarding that comment?
Within new revised, it says it has to have all the structural calculations, everything done and approved and permitted by the city. So we've taken into account any structural changes.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right, any other questions, comments from the board based upon that comment? Okay. All right, so we're now going to vote for this. Unfortunately, the system in front of us isn't working, so we're going to be doing the old-fashioned raise your hand if you're for it first, and then raise your hand if you're against it, and then raise your hand if you abstain, perhaps. So we'll start by if you raise your hand if you are for approving the updated revised architectural standards for skylight installations. Okay. All right. And Kush, we'll take a look. So Jules, was your hand up? Did I miss it, or you? Oh, sorry, I just didn't see it. All right, Kush, you have a thought on this? All right. Don't see one. So all the members here, just for clarification, for those of you who couldn't see, all of the members of the board that are sitting here at the table voted yes. I'm guessing Kush abstained. So as a result, this passed. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 12B, it's for the board to entertain a motion to approve updates to the thirds nuisance policy. These updates were suggested by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee in an effort to clarify what qualifies as a nuisance. Specifically, a single instance of an action is not enough to qualify as a nuisance, but repeated instances of certain actions raised to the level of being a nuisance. Last month, this board approved these changes for 28-day member review and comment, so today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve these changes to our policy. Again, Chris, if you could read us the resolution to start.
Yes, nuisance policy. Whereas the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee has recognized the need to amend the nuisance policy to clarify guidelines for nuisance complaints received by the board. Now therefore be it resolved January 17, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the nuisance policy as attached to the official minutes of this meeting. And resolve further that Resolution 03-20-28, adopted on April 21, 2020, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Thank you. It's nice when they're short. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the updated nuisance policy? Chris moves. Jim seconds. Thank you both. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board regarding this updated policy? All right, I see none. Kayla, do we have any? She's shaking her head no. We have no member comments. All right, so now it's time to vote for 12B. Please raise your hand if you're approving the update to thirds nuisance policy. All right, so all of us here in the board desk approved. Kush, will ask you again if you have comments. Okay. Okay. Kush is recovering from being sick, so he may be too weak to raise his hand here. All right, so we'll consider him abstained and that this has passed as well. 801. Okay. We're now moving on to agenda item 13, which is new business. Agenda item 13A is for the board to entertain a motion to approve revised architectural standard number 4 for air conditioning units and heat pumps. These updates were suggested by the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. Today we will be voting as to whether or not to submit these revised architectural standards forward for 28-day member review and comment. Does anyone from staff have any opening comments regarding this for us? Looks like Bart does. Thank you, Bart. Good morning.
Mr. President, board members, I am happy to bring before you another standard that we are updating. As you know, we are working on the program to update all of the standards in third to take into account any new regulations and the new direction from the board, as well as bringing flexibility and streamlining the process of mutual consent for our residents. Standard number 4 deals with the air conditioners and the number of installations. That is a standard that was way outdated. We have revised and updated the language for most of the sections. We have also taken into account some issues that were brought up before the committee, and as we have heard from members and board members that there were some areas that needed updating. More specifically, is the installation of air conditioners in multi-story buildings and how they are piped. So we have allowed for, with this new revision, for updates in new technology for air conditioners that will allow more efficient units of different footprints. The standard was very limiting as far as sizing, and what it is proposed is that we follow industry standards rather than specific measurements. That we allow those installations for second and third floor air conditioners to either be mounted up on the roof or on the ground. We talked about one specific requirement that was brought up at one of the previous meetings, and that is, and I am looking for your information as your attachment. Number 3, the red line version of the standard on page 12 of 24. Section 3.2 specifically prohibits the installation of self-contained packages on the roof, and there are a number of reasons for that. We talked about the additional weight that these units will add to the roof, so structural concerns were one of those issues. But the most important reason is the ducting of these units directly to the unit that is going to serve, that there is no way to guarantee that it will align, and that will require larger penetrations through the roof system. And I believe that is one of the reasons that the previous board and staff had recommended that these units not be allowed. So that is the only restriction that remains from the old standard, and I believe that the staff supports that restriction as well for the reasons mentioned. We cleaned up some of the other areas, including how to made the chaseways rodent-proof. I've added additional language that will add some flexibility. So with that, there is my short presentation. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Jim?
Just so you know, some things were brought up about our multi-story buildings. And because we are looking at putting more solar panels installation, that we may actually want to revise this a little bit to have ground units rather than roof-mounted units, because they will be getting in the way of our future solar panels. That was one item. And then on 3.6, the whole purpose of this was to make it a standard. And when it's a standard under 3.6, it's asking for adjoining manders, mutuals required to submit signed neighborhood awareness forms. Generally, when you have a standard, they don't have to follow that procedure. So that's another item in here that may not be wanted to be included. But we might prioritize for ground installation rather than roof installation to promote our solar panel process. And that's just some comments from talking to other board members that should possibly be looked at and possibly changed before we continue on with it.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Ira?
You mentioned weight and duct size consideration for roof-mounted units. If we eliminate them in the manner which you have, that might require a new revision of standards, as most of the ducts, even internally and everywhere I've seen over the years, have increased in size for efficiency's sake. And I'm not so sure about the weight of the units getting heavier. I think they're getting slightly lighter in general as they're using more plastic parts rather than metal. So I'm not sure if the elimination of certain types of units would be making this in more of a, or less of a timeless type of change than it should be. So I'm not sure what's coming down as far as new and great and most modern out of the air conditioning industry, but it's just possibly something to look at. But especially the duct size, I don't think that's going to make too much difference if someone cuts a hole for 6-inch versus a 5-inch, just as far as weatherproofing. Yes, it's a little bit more, but not really a big change. So anyway, just food for thought.
If I may, for those self-contained units, the challenge is aligning the new penetrations from the roof to the unit that may or may not align with its location. I think we can, if we leave it as is, we can address any specific applications via the variance process. And in that case, if there are any requests for installation of self-contained units on the roof, we can entertain that as a variance.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Are there any decibel or sound requirements? I didn't see anything in this updated policy around that.
So I believe that the city and technology will dictate what those numbers are. They are decreasing, they are more efficient, the insulation is improving. We can consider a minimum or a maximum decibel levels, but those will change with technology. The way it is, we left it open to the advances in technology and the city requirements.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I don't know that we need minimum decibel requirements, but something. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I don't want us to be putting in something that's going to bother everybody as a standard. All right, okay. Any other questions for Bart before we proceed with our business? We'll get to that in a second. Members' comments in a minute. So as our process here, now that Bart will have a resolution read, we'll make a motion, we'll talk about it as a board, what we want to do with it, and then we'll have member comments as well. Okay, Chris, if you can read the resolution.
Yes, standard.
Can I make a comment first? I have tried out 3 hearing devices at the front desk, and they're all bad. So I just want to say for the record that I'm having a lot of difficulty understanding what's going on here. So in the event that I miss something in the minutes, I just want to let most people know that I'm having a lot of difficulty hearing this. And I would also suggest that we ask VMS to replace all those units because they're uniformly terrible.
Okay. Consider that request made. I will ask VMS to replace or look into replacing those units, fixing or replacing. All right. Chris?
Okay. Standard 4, air conditioning units, heating pumps. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise Standard 4, air conditioning units, heat pumps. Now, therefore be resolved February 21, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts Standard 4 air conditioning units, heat pumps, as attached to the official meeting minutes, and resolve further that Resolution 03-19-71, adopted July 16, 2019, is hereby superseded in its entirety and no longer in effect, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written.
Thanks. All right. Can I get a motion to forward these revised schedules for 28-day review before we discuss them? Ira moves. Donna seconds. All right. Now it's for us to discuss what we want to do with this. Jim, you have some comment?
Yeah, I would advise we actually send this back to the Architectural Standards Committee to consider some of the issues that have been brought up about solar panels that the third board might want to put in on residences. So that would affect the item where it says outdoor condensing units for 2 stories are as follows. First floor mounters shall be installed at ground level. Second shall be installed only on flat roofs directly above the ground unit. Since we're making this a standard, if we're going to be putting solar panels on some of the 2-story buildings and some of the 3-story buildings, we may want the first alternative to be all of them to be installed at ground level.
Okay, I hear you. I don't know what other people think about that.
Okay. So with that, I do agree with Jim. Ground level is better for, number one, for annual servicing of these units. You don't have anybody walking on the roofs or multitude of people walking on the roofs trying to service things, especially if we put solar panels up there and you have this, is going to be a real problem with space for footing. And to remove something that's going to have to be serviced by some outside vendor on a yearly basis generally, I think it's a good idea to move things down to ground level, get your prospective contractor in and out quicker rather than having to go up on the roof. Aside from being safer, it's just quicker and better.
Okay. Man, I don't know what some of these buildings, all of the buildings necessarily look like, but do they have room around the building for, 24 air conditioning units if there's that many homes in the building? Stacked up, just something to consider.
Yeah, I think with a 3-story building, using that as an example, there would have to be some alteration of the landscape surrounding the building. Let's say there's bushes up against the wall of the outside of the building. That would be moved out an appropriate number of feet to give space and cover, visual cover, for these air conditioners. You need some space to where the maximum size of the bush that's providing a view covering, if you will, not to grow within 18 to 24 inches of anything. And so there'd be a little redesigning, but I think overall it'd be better for the community, and we would remove some turf along the way, so there's going to be a plus, and we get a visual cover that's going to look nice, so you don't see the air conditioners. So I think it'll be a win-win, actually.
So is it going to be a new landscaping policy to cover air conditioning? Yeah. Sorry, just saying that with a smile on my face. All right, any other comments? So we have a motion to approve this that's been seconded. We have some comments of maybe pushing this back. So why don't we vote on whether we want to approve this for 28-day review. If it fails, then we'll figure out what we're going to do, whether we're going to send it back to committee or just drop it. Yeah, sound good? That's kind of, I think, the way these processes are supposed to work with what little Robert's rules I know. Yeah. So can we vote? Who would like to forward this for 28-day review? Okay. All right. So I don't see any hands up. So I think what I'm understanding is that people are willing to listen to Jim, the chair of the Architectural Control and Standards Committee, where this came out of, to not have it go forward as it currently is. Okay. Can I get a motion then to send it back to committee, if that's the ask?
I move to send it back to committee.
Okay, thanks. And Ira seconds. Okay. Any disagreement on that? Rather than asking us all raise our hands again, just ask you to raise your hand if you disagree with sending it back to committee. Okay. So based upon the comments here, we're going to send back the architectural standard number 4 for air conditioning units, heat bumps, back to the Architectural Control and Standards Committee for review and update. And then, as appropriate, it'll come back to us. Thank you, board. Well done. Agenda item 13B is for the board to entertain a motion to approve revised architectural standard number 31 for washer and dryer installations. These updates were also suggested by the Architectural Control and Standards Committee. I have trouble saying it too, Jim. And will allow members to install washers and dryers in 3-story buildings, assuming other requirements are met. Today, we will be voting as to whether or not to submit these revised standards forward for 28-day member review and comment. Does anyone from staff have any opening comments for us regarding this?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. So this one again updates current language for this standard 31 for washer and dryers. But the main purpose of this presentation is to allow the installation of washers and dryers in 3-story buildings, where in the previous version of it, it was prohibited. We have taken into account some of the challenges of these installations and have provided language to help protect the mutual and the structures and to prevent any leaking of these units. And I believe that the language that was introduced, which it's a combination of input from different departments, will allow that, provided that those measures are taken. Again, I think we are looking at new technology, more efficient washer and dryers, and with this, a more convenient way of providing this type of service with these appliances. That's my quick presentation. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, great, thanks. I know I've heard many questions about washers and dryers in 3-story buildings, so I think this will come as a welcome change. I see Donna, I see Jim, so we'll start with Donna.
Yeah, just to clarify, when we lived in a 3-story building, the rationale we were given for not having washers and dryers was that the pipes were too small, wouldn't be able to handle the volume. So if that's the case and the buildings haven't been redone, are the new washer and dryers sufficiently efficient that they're not going to overwhelm those pipes? How do we get around?
Very good question. And what we propose to do is we're looking at 2 different scenarios. Those that have been epoxy lined, where the existing waste lines are completely open. So there will be, even that will still require that the applicant or the resident provide an analysis that shows that by running this new appliance, they will not overwhelm the existing system. Okay. For those that are old, we are requesting that they videotape, and if they are plugged, that they clean up the pipe, and it may even require that they be epoxy lined up to the main line so that this unit can work. Again, that will require some flow calculations to make sure that the system is not overwhelmed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Jim?
My question is just as to 2.6, where it talks about 3-inch ABS. That's only for the down spout, right? Not from the washer, because typically washer is only 2-inch.
And again, that is to guarantee that there is sufficient capacity for that, and it doesn't apply to the actual connection where it drains directly from the washer to the pipe. It's the one
to the 3-inch.
Yes.
So it just seemed like that was a little bit misconstrued. That generally it'd be a 2-inch to the 3-inch, but it needs to be a 3-inch on the main. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Ira?
So with that same, rather than saying a minimum size, would it be just say adequate flow as determined by calculations? Could you substitute, instead of minimum sizes are 3-inch ABS plastic and 3-inch cast iron, just to say meeting minimum flow calculations and not necessarily have a size?
That will work as well.
Okay. I mean, given the way it's worded now, I was going to ask you if we had a list of manners that don't qualify, because the way 2.6 is worded is, if this manor doesn't have 3-inch pipes, we won't approve anything.
So Director Lewis's suggestion will allow more flexibility when it comes to that.
That sounds good. And Kush, I see your hand. I'll get you in a second. I see on this policy 2.0 exterior cabinets, but I don't see anything about like 3.0 interior cabinets. Shouldn't there be something about? So I'm looking 2.1 through 2.13 are all under the heading of exterior cabinets. Is that how this was meant?
And Mr. President, that will require clarification.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, sounds like something we can do. Kush, you had some questions or comments?
Thanks. Yes. The big question is that if we do agree to all these pipe sizes and flows and all that kind of stuff, my big question is, are we going to control who is going to install the washers and dryers in the 3-story building? And are we going to just leave it to the resident to pick their own vendor, and then we have a disaster, and then we go through this whole hoopla of, whodunit type of thing? So are we going to control who is going to be able to install as part of this policy?
It is not intended to do so. It is intended to be on a first-come, first-served basis, and the individual applicant or resident providing the proper calculations to show that the proposed washer will not overwhelm the existing waste lines. As more of these are added, then they will need to take into account any other installations within the same main line or waste line. And we do, through our system, through Stellar, we keep track of those for each building. So we're going to be able to share that information with the applicants if more than one applies for this type of installation.
Sure, but my question is slightly different. What I'm trying to ask is that based on all the calculation, the resident might qualify to install, but who they use to make that installation are we going to control on the plumbers or the companies, or are we going to do it as a service? What do we call it?
A chargeable service, you mean?
Chargeable service. Are we going to do this as a chargeable service?
It is not. It is not. It will be at the expense of the resident or the applicant to do so, and this one will require city building permits. And with that, only the qualified contractors can do the type of work that they propose to do. And that's, we will rely on the city to enforce building code requirements for these installations.
Good. That is very important, because having this controlled is very important, because we don't want any fiascos later on.
Understood.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Kush.
Yes. Thank you.
Looks like Ralph has a question or comment.
Paragraph 2.12 reads that if the installation of washers and dryers in 3-story buildings may be permitted under one of the following conditions, not all of them, but one of them. You could go down and have D that says installations must include sound dampening rubber pads for the feet of the approved appliance. And that's good, but that way that is worded, it would allow you to ignore the waistline problem.
So it's going to need some tweaking, I think.
It does.
Okay.
Good point.
Thank you. Good. Okay. I'm going to stop things for just a second. Paul, did you do something that might help Jules hear better? Okay. I just saw you over here. Okay. Yeah. Just if so, I wanted to let Jules get back to it. All right.
So on 2.12, we would just have to cross out one of and just say under the following conditions.
Correct. That will solve the problem instead of separating those into different sections.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments from us for Bart? Okay. All right. So kind of following the standard process, I'll ask Chris to read the resolution.
Excuse me, Standard 31, washer and dryer installations. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise Alteration Standard 31, washer and dryer installations, and whereas Resolution M3-98-65 ceased the acceptance of variance requests for installations of washers and dryers in 3-story buildings, and by inference grandfathered previous permitted installations of washers and dryers. Now therefore be it resolved, February 21, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts Standard 31 washer and dryer installations as attached to the official meeting minutes, and resolve further that Resolution M3-98-65 adopted December 15, 1998, and 03-18-156 adopted November 29, 2018 is hereby superseded in its entirety and no longer in effect, and resolve further all washer and dryers installed in 3-story buildings with a mutual consent prior to February 21, 2023 continue to be grandfathered, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written.
All right, thanks. Jim, you have something?
I just wanted to make the motion to approve with the minor corrections on 2.6 and 2.12.
Okay, I hear a motion. Ira seconds, thanks. Okay, any discussion, question, comments from the board on this motion?
Michaela, is there a comment from?
We do have 2 member comments.
Okay, I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, you're getting me
comment.
out of order, Jim. Come on.
She was waving.
Oh, okay, got it. I'll always ask you. It's on my script to ask. I'll always ask.
I have a comment too.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Because I'm thinking.
Okay, my comment is that this is the best change that we are making in the last 20 years. And I think most residents should be really excited that we have made this made this change for them. And having a washer dryer in the 3-story building is paramount and I commend all of my fellow directors who have been working on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kush. My only concern would be making sure that we get a good version for the next meeting when we are trying to approve it for good. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you to take lead on that as you're the chair of this committee. I don't know if you have a meeting between now and then, but if not, sit down with Bart and make sure that it meets our standards. Thank you. Okay. Michaela, do we have any member comments on this one?
Yes. The first member is Rosemary DiLorenzo.
Thank you. As a resident of a 3-story building, all I can say is yippee, because we kept trying to do this for years. The real question that I have is, I would sometimes say to someone, I would pay $10,000 if I could have a washer and dryer and not have to keep walking outside. Does anybody have any idea as to what the cost will be for this? Because people will ask. So you have all of these little steps in here. So is there like how impossible is this going to be? How expensive is it going to be to have these engineers and this and that? Do we have any idea? I'm looking at you, Jim. Only. Any ideas?
May I answer?
Are you done? Is that
yeah,
all?
I would love to see a little map that says your path to your washer and dryer, and it'll take us through all the steps because it's going to the, do you go to the city? Do you go down? Whatever, all that. But the thing is how much could it cost? People will ask that.
Yeah,
all 1/3 of third.
Mm-hmm. Understand. Sorry, I'm just.
Want
to get all of your comments out before we answer your question.
That was it. My other comment was on the air conditioner, but we let that one go.
Okay, we did. All right, you go ahead, Jim, if you have an answer.
No, we don't have an answer at this time, but obviously it's going to be much cheaper for the ones whose buildings have already been lined because that process has already taken place, so we already know the flow has been increased considerably. The actual washers are about 2 to 3 times the cost of a typical washer because they're the compact, more efficient, so they're considerably more expensive. But other than that, it's probably not so bad because these washers can be placed in cabinetry, much like your dishwasher, that type of thing. So that'll cut down some of the cost. But as far as the engineering studies to check the flows, I have no idea what that's going to be. And we don't really want to go out and do it because we don't want to spend our money. So probably once the first person does it, it'll give us an idea of what it's going to cost to meet all these requirements.
Are you volunteering, Rosemary?
And I might, because you're going to lose a lot on laundry revenue. But how does one find out if one's building has been?
So I have asked for that list, and I'll be getting it out to members shortly.
Then I might be a volunteer. Thank you. Thanks.
Go ahead, Donna, and then we'll get
Might I suggest, it's a great thought, that one person might absorb all this cost and all the rest of the building follows suit. Every one of the 3-story buildings has a building captain, and I would think that if we still lived in one, we would do that, which is have the building captains find out who's interested in putting in a washer and dryer. And if they have, whoever's interested, have them pool it so that at least the cost is spread over the people who are interested.
Good suggestion. I'll bring it up to Stuart.
Mark?
Yes.
There was a gentleman that brought this up several months ago, and he spoke before the board, I think, at the last meeting. He said there's several people in his building that would be working together to do this. So the cost could be spread, among several people if it worked out. They could, do it beforehand.
Okay, great.
But spread it among several of them. So another thought.
Okay, thanks.
And in the 3-story buildings, it's my understanding that there are multiple sewer pipes. So if you're in one unit, let's say on the 3rd floor in the corner, you may be different you will be different than the other person at the opposite end of the building on the 2nd or 3rd floor. So one person, so there will be a difference as far as flow rates and whatnot, because there are multiple sewer lines, and so there are more people connected to one versus another. So there will have to be some kind of calculations done, and it will be almost on an individual basis, but it might be for a whole section of all this sewer pipe can do it, and these people can't.
Good. Yeah, and as Rosemary brings up, if we do continue forward with this, we're going to have to figure out what to do with the laundry room. I mean, we maintain laundry rooms on each floor. If everybody has a washer dryer, will we still need to do that on a building or for a fail-safe? So those are things that this board will need to consider, but we'll do that. We had another member comment, at least.
Yes, Robert Stace.
Mr. Stace.
Thank you, Board. One of the problems is, and the realtors will tell you, they're not buying units in the three-story buildings because of the washer and dryer. They expect it. For the prices they're paying for those units, they expect a kind of an amenity. The other problem is the washers and dryers in the laundry room suck. They're broken more than they work. I'm a co-captain. I'm forever calling in to get them fixed. They don't work. They're lousy. And sharing the washers on each level, it's not practical. It's not fun to go out in the rain to check to see if it's available. Number two, I'm in a three-story building, top floor. I have a washer, a dishwasher. I have a garbage disposal, 3 bedrooms with 3 bathrooms with tubs, showers, sinks that all go into the sewer system. These buildings are built with 4 individual sewer traps that go down through the floor. So roughly the 24 units, each roughly about 8 in each one, or 6 or 8 in each, go into the floor. So it's not like it's going through one unit. It is divided up. Chances of them all doing it at the same time are nil. It's probably not going to happen. But it's a big inconvenience, and people have had it. Realtors, they're not buying. It's one of the things they look at. They pass on the units because of the inconvenience of it. These are modern times. People expect the basic amenities, a bathroom, a garbage disposal, the basic things that you expect for a $500,000-$600,000 piece of property. They're not going to put up with it. They'll go elsewhere. So that's what you're doing if you don't pass this. People are going to pass. It's that simple. And my unit already has a downspout for the drain, which is next to the water heater. The center bathroom has a large closet, water heater here. There's plenty of space to put a stackable washer and dryer. And they do have full-size washers and dryers that stack. My understanding is you need to put a pan under the washer, just like you do with the water heater. I'll pay for it. It's not a problem. Happy to do it. It's already set to go out. There's already a pipe that goes out from underneath the water heater. So it shouldn't be a big problem to do this at all. Like I say, it's divided up into 4 different pipes. If they pull a building permit, you have control on who puts them in. So you have control over the installation. You don't have to worry about some unqualified person putting it in.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Sounds like Mr. Sace agrees that this is a good policy to continue forward with. All right. Any other comments? Nope. Like Michaela, just a second. Before, hold on just a minute, Mr. Stace. Michaela, any other? Okay.
No, that is it.
Now. All right. Any other questions, comments from the board before we vote? Okay. So the motion is to put this for 28-day review, and during that 28-day review, tweak this as per the minor updates that we talked about. Yeah. Anybody not in? Let's go ahead and do this. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Okay. I can't see what Kush is.
It's a yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so all right. So 9-4, proceeding with putting this policy standard on 28-day review. So I'll try to help get more comments about it in the coming weeks. Thank you, board. All right, agenda item 13C is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the updates to the third's care and maintenance of patios, balconies, breezeways, and walkways policy. These updates were suggested by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. There was a recent situation where there was a difference in interpretation of this policy between a homeowner and members of the board. So these proposed updates are intended to make the policy more clear and complete. Today we'll be voting on whether or not to submit this updated policy forward for 28-day member review and comment. So Chris, if you could read the resolution for us, please.
Yes, care and maintenance of patios, balconies, breezeways, and walkways. Whereas the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee has recognized the need to amend the care and maintenance of patios, balconies, breezeways, and walkways to clarify guidelines for management and care of common areas or limited common areas. Now therefore be it resolved February 21, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the care and maintenance of patios, balconies, breezeways, and walkways as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that Resolution 03-16-117, adopted on November 18, 2016, is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Okay, great, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve this updated policy for 28-day review before we discuss it? Chris moves. Donna seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments from members of the board? Ralph?
I have a question. Say that the wind chimes are prohibited in all three-story buildings. Why was that deleted?
Just because it was redundant. It's already in number 7.
Oh.
In multi-story buildings, it's in number 7. So it was just...
Okay. All right. That's fine.
All right. Jules, you going to have some comments for us?
Yes, I'm going to have
Okay.
some comments.
Great, thank you. Just wasn't sure.
Just to identify what's going on, these are pictures of, can you? Thank you.
Good. One would expect, but that's fine. All right, so you've shared some pictures.
Thank you. I would like to ask, can someone please explain to us precisely what the purpose of the amended rule is?
All of the amended rules, or is there...
Well, there's only one substantive change, and the substantive change is number 10, that says there is you can't store anything under a stairway. Otherwise, there's no difference. This is the only substantive change, and I would like someone to explain why there is a substantive change. And I do it because this is a photograph of my stairway right outside my residence. And as you can see, behind the stairway, it is a dead end. The only thing that's there is a closet on each side which has water heaters. So the only people that have ever gone back there, not periodically, but ever, are the plumbers that maybe once a year will change a water heater, because there's 6 water heaters there. Water heaters last more than 10 years. So maybe once every other year, a plumber goes back there. I go back there. I go back there because although you can't see it, there is a recumbent tricycle buried inside the little area underneath, right? Nothing else can get in there except a recumbent trike. You can't put a table, you can't put a chair, you can't put a regular bike, you can't put anything there. The only thing that goes there is a recumbent tricycle, of which I think there may be 1 or 2 in the entire community of 6,000 members. I go back there for a second reason, because there's a dead tree up on top and it's constantly dropping leaves. So once a week, I sweep that whole thing out myself because nobody else does. No, I misstated something. There is a third person that has gone back there. It is the thief that walked back there, rifled through my bike bag, and stole all my tools. In other words, the only people that ever go back there, ever, is me and the plumbers once a year, right? So it was suggested that I think the regulation says the purpose is to avoid someone taking advantage, as if this is really terrible. God, you're taking advantage of the fact that there's a dead space where you can put your recumbent tricycle. Taking advantage, there's another word for it. It's called enjoying the opportunity. I mean, we take advantage of all the facilities here, but this regulation makes it sound like, oh, someone unnamed is taking advantage. So I would say again, can someone please explain what precisely the purpose of this rule is, except to punish me because I am taking advantage of this? Now, I have a bad back and a bad hip, and hopefully I'm going to get the hip taken care of this year. But the back, I can't help. I can no longer ride a bicycle hunched over. And I ride a bicycle a very long way. I've ridden centuries. I do a lot of, that's the only exercise that I can do. But there's no place to park a recumbent tricycle. I can't put it on the lawn. I can't put it on the sidewalk. I can't put it in the carport because if I put it in the carport, it takes up so much room that I'm going to have to move my car every time I move it, and the car is going to be stuck out, or it's going to be in back of my car, which is a very long station wagon, so it will be out in the open and subject to the weather. So I can't do that. I guess I could park it smack in the middle of the carport, and that would require, and it was suggested by somebody that that's exactly what I do. Park there and park your car out on the street. Now you just think to yourself how beneficial it is to add one more car to the already strained parking problems that we have.
Are you
There's
ready?
another thing.
Sorry?
There's another thing.
I was trying to answer your question.
No. Oh, yeah, I'd love you to answer the question.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. The purpose, one of the key purposes of this overall policy is to reduce unsightly items from common areas. In the past, the third board has received complaints about items stored under stairways, and the board has interpreted this policy to not allow items under stairways. Since we have a precedent of declined allowing of storing of items under the stairways, this additional line has been added to the policy for clarification of what I believe is this board's position. Some might argue that items stored underneath stairways can't be seen, and if you take a picture from the right angle, that is probably true. But if you look at it from the side, you can. There's some windows there that I don't believe are yours in this photo that you have, so somebody has to look at that, whatever's under the stairway. Also, the space underneath stairways are limited. If storing items underneath them were allowed, then we might be faced with situations where all neighbors want to store their stuff under the stairway. And then the board would have to be mediating disagreement over who gets to store their stuff under the stairway. And finally, since stairways are emergency exits, we want to make sure that there are no safety issues that might accompany allowing items being stored beneath stairways. I should note for the board members, I reviewed this change of policy with our attorney, who confirmed that this change is perfectly legal. It is relating to common area and within the jurisdiction of this board. But this board is making the decision, so Yeah, it's not me or Jules who will all be voting together as to whether or not to approve this policy as it is stated.
Well, now, let's address some of those things.
Okay.
The idea that it is in some way, what's the word you use?
Unsightly?
Unsightly. Is there something unsightly about an expensive recumbent tricycle? No. Secondly, you can't see it. Thirdly, there's a difference between parking a recumbent trike there when I'm not riding it, because I'm riding it virtually every day until my recent problems. So you're talking about storing stuff. We already know that you can't store stuff on the breezeway. We're enforcing that right now. In fact, my neighbor had a couple of cardboard boxes stored in the left-hand corner of that thing. She was cited for it. It's not, if for another reason, it's not intended for outdoor use, a cardboard box. There's another thing, and that is, given my back problems, and I guess I want to get back to another question, and that is that people have been complaining. What have they been complaining? Has anyone complained about a recumbent trike being there? It's not even stored. It's actually parked. There's a difference between storage and parking. And, but in addition to that, under the Federal Fair Housing Act and California's Fair Employment and Housing Act and Davis Sterling, given the fact that I have a bad back and can't ride anything other than this, and since there's no other reasonable way there's no other reasonable place to park it, then at the very least, I would be entitled under those three statutes to what's called reasonable accommodation. Now, reasonable accommodation allows you to put in a ramp where a ramp wouldn't otherwise be used. Perhaps even to put in a lifting device, an elevator. Those are real intrusions into our control of these things. What I'm suggesting, in order for me to park this trike there, involves no intrusion at all. Nobody's harmed. And in point of fact, the present rule is, I think the question was whether there was confusion as to the interpretation of the current rule. There's no confusion as to the interpretation of the current rule. The current rule specifically does not prohibit or even attempt to limit my parking the recumbent trike there. It is absolutely legal right now to park my recumbent trike there. And I defy anyone to identify a single one of the provisions of the current rule that actually prohibits it. So, for example, let's look at the current rule, if I can find it with my shaky hands. And I appreciate your indulgence.
If I might interrupt while Jules is looking for the rules, that perhaps we consider a variance for,
Health.
as we do with home construction, that will allow a compromise. So parking would be available, just that we'd know about it, it would be accepted. His neighbors would have to be aware that he is going to park there. As you brought up, Mark, the windows, and there are probably windows on the other side as well, where it's visually, it's easy to see from looking through the windows for those particular neighbors. Perhaps if we entertain some sort of variance process for this type of thing, it might satisfy everybody, and we can just move on with some other business.
Yes, I hear you. This is a policy that affects the entire community. The board is always open to discussions about a reasonable accommodation. That's above and beyond the policy. We're talking about this policy that wants to clarify that things shouldn't be stored under stairways. If we start talking about stored versus parked, does that mean we can park motorcycles and jet skis when I'm not using them under stairways, those types of things? So I'm not trying to make this policy about a certain person's certain situation, although somebody may think that's the case. That's not the case. It was just, it came up that the policy seemed to not be clear. As we've been talking about for months, our goal is to review the policies and try to make them clear, and this was, we're just trying to clear this one up. So, yeah.
This is not an attempt to redefine, to avoid any confusion about what the rule was. The rule was perfectly clear. The first rule, remember, this is a prohibition. The first rule starts out, all plants must be suitably potted. I didn't violate that rule by parking my trike there. The second one was planting and growing of herbs and tomatoes. I think everybody will probably agree that I didn't violate the herbs and tomatoes provision. The third one is planting of fruit trees, also not a violation. The fourth actually says you can put items on the stick. So therefore, that's a permission. That's not a prohibition. The fifth one talks about potting supplies and garden equipment. I'm sure you'll all agree that my parking of that recumbent trike there does not violate the potting supplies provision. The next one is plants must adhere to the plant and limited common area, right? Also inapplicable. The next one talks about nails, screws, and hooks. Also doesn't. The next one talks about three-story building hangings. I assume everybody can agree that since this is not a three-story building and we're not talking about hangings, that doesn't apply. The next one that says furniture and items designed for indoor use are not allowed. Well, the trike is an outdoor use thing, so that isn't. The next one is potted plants can't be placed on the railings. I've heard my recumbent tricycle called a bunch of things, but it's not been called a potted plant. Maybe some of the people that write the regulations might be considered potted plants, but that isn't. The next one is items that constitute a nuisance to one's neighbors. Nobody has complained about that, and in fact, it's not a nuisance because you can't even get to it. The next one talks about a residence balcony. The next one talks about landscape crews will not take care of your personal items, right? So we're not talking about any confusion as to what this rule is. The point is, this rule is clearly, the word taking advantage is exactly what, and oh, there's another thing. I've been living here for 7 years. When we moved in November of 2015, I put my trike under the stairwell immediately. I also put a wooden sideboard next to my front door. Thereafter, landscape put in 4x8 concrete pavers on a dirt area right next to a totally dead dirt area. Throughout, and then I bought a table and put it out there. No problem at all. On June 3rd, I became a member of this board as a result of a very successful recall. And I immediately got on the executive committee. And the first meeting that was there, 5 days later, it was perfectly clear that compliance had done something absolutely dreadful, totally dreadful in
So compliance,
prosecuting.
we talked about this, compliance has made may have made some mistakes. I don't want to go there.
Not
Jules.
just,
Can I get a
not
call
just,
to question?
okay, not
Please?
just a few mistakes.
I will, excuse
14 mistakes.
Excuse
Sorry,
me.
the chair is recognizing Chris.
Yes, I'd like to call the item for a vote.
Okay.
I think we've gone off the rails.
I
here,
am
and
not
I'd like to
finished.
stick with the.
It is very important to say that as soon as I made the complaint on August 11th about what they did to Mrs. Simpson, 5 days later.
This is inappropriate to.
Yes,
comment
this
at
is.
this time. Thank
So
you.
we have a call to question. You feel this is about you, this is about the policy. Let's vote and we'll see how it goes. Okay, Jules?
I'd like to move.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to move that we approve the revised or the revisions to the care and maintenance of patios, balconies, breezeways, and walkways.
Okay, for 28-day review. Any second?
Second.
Jim seconds, okay. Any member comments? Okay, can we go ahead and vote on this? So all in favor of approving the changes to this policy for 28-day review, please raise your hand. All right, okay. So it's all but Jules. Kush, you have a thought one way or the other, if you're there? Okay, so we have 7 votes. All who vote no, raise your hand, please. Okay. Jules votes no, so it's 7, 1, and 1. We can track that. Okay, and we'll move on. Okay, and we'll get member comments. I will solicit member comments, and hopefully that'll help us make the right decision for our community. Moving on to agenda item 13D, it's to approve some committee assignment updates. Kush, if you're there, I know you had some suggested changes. We'll get to those in a second. First, can I get a motion? Yeah, and I know you do. Yes. Can I motion to approve them for discussion and tweaking?
So moved.
Chris moves. Ira seconds. Thanks.
Yes.
All right. Kush, we'll start with you, then Donna, and then if you guys haven't covered mine, we'll go with me, and I have the one you have. Ira.
Sorry, I had stepped away for a moment. So on page 4 of 6 of this recommendation, we need to make some changes. It's for the security and what is this committee called? Security and Community.
Yeah. So Security and Community Access Committee, Annie McCary,
Yes.
should be replaced with Moon.
Any should be replaced, yes.
Yeah, that was done. Unfortunately, we got an older version, so got it, great. We'll make that change. What else you have?
That was my main thing.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yes.
And okay, thank you, Kush.
No worries.
And Donna, you had something
Yes,
as well?
yes, I'm pleased to say we'd like to welcome to the Finance Committee 2 new advisors, Jim Glassman and Bridget Arsher, and if they could be added as non-voting members, advisors, appreciate it.
Great, thank you. All right, and those covered my changes. It looks like Chris might have some.
Yes, for the GRF Media and Communications Committee, Moon is an alternate.
Okay, Moon's an alternate. Okay, great, thanks. Any other changes? All right, so that's probably my fault for missing some of these, so I'll take the hit on that. Any objections to approving these committee appointments with the changes made? So we're adding 2 new non-voting advisors to the Finance Committee. We're on the GRF side, we're making Moon an alternate to the GRF Media and Communications Committee, and we, on the GRF side, we're replacing Annie McCary with Moon Young on the Security and Community Access Committee. Okay. Yeah. Any issues with those changes? Okay. Thank you. We'll consider 13D approved by consent. All right, thank you, board. Now we'll move on to agenda item 14, where the members of this board will share our monthly committee status updates. Starting with a report of the Finance Committee. Donna, what do you have for us?
Thank you. And as part of my treasurer's report, which is going to be very brief, if we could put up the infographic of how this year's monthly assessment is divided. And we've just got that up. I'm not going through all of it. It takes some time, but it's a wonderful illustration of exactly where your monthly assessment goes. And just to point out the kind of work that goes into every annual budget, there isn't a single category on that chart that hasn't had some adjustment from last year. And that's how much detail and how much effort goes into it. So look at it, enjoy it, compare it to last year, and it's in your packet. It's available in your agenda and online as well. So moving on, I'd like to go to the actual finance report, and we'll have that up in a second. We're going to start, and all of this is through the reporting period of November 30th, 2022. Total revenue, as you can see, was almost $40 million compared to expenses of almost $36 million, leaving us a net revenue of almost $4 million. Let's move on. Here we're looking at the operating income, and we always look very closely at this because this is the money that's been set aside for areas that we expect to have expenses and the amount that we anticipate having. And again, you can see as you look at the assessment revenue, non-assessment, and expenses put against them, we do have an operating surplus that is just a little over $1 million. And if we move on, in the interest of time, because you all have these numbers in your packet, slide number 3. This is the full income, and it compares. It's the first time we're looking at it compared to budget. And you can see that actually assessment revenue, not surprisingly, was pretty close to budget because we know what that's going to be. Non-assessment revenue was actually a little bit higher than anticipated. Expenses, though, were quite a bit lower, so we wind up with net revenue surplus of almost $4 million, which we've already mentioned. And that's quite a variance from the budget, which anticipated just under $1 million. Some of that, as we look closer at it, you'll see where that comes from. A lot of it related to a need for employees, et cetera. So let's move on to that. These are variances. The green over going out to the right is where we have performed better than anticipated, and the red is where we had issues. So looking at outside services, it's not surprising that we did really quite well, but it was because, unfortunately, less building structures events, some things were unable to be done. We had fewer events, though, than anticipated, so that was a good thing. We had less work than was needed, and a very late start to the copper pipe remediation and roof replacement programs. Employee compensation is favorable, unfortunately, because we are missing some positions, and we're still working to fill them and making some progress. So that's good. That's the good news. Insurance, again, as we've identified every month, is favorable to a lower insurance renewal than was anticipated because we were hit so very hard the previous year. There was some extra built into that budget just to make sure that there wasn't an issue. And as it turned out, those premiums did not come in as high. We renew them June 1st of every year, and so we will be paying again the next June 1st. And then legal fees. less fees as anticipated, really more efficiently using our legal advice and services. Utilities was unfavorable, primarily because SoCal Edison had redone their systems, their electronic systems, and didn't send us bills of over $166,000 the year before. So they had to be paid last year, and that is where that deficit came in. Other than that, it looked pretty good. So let's move on. Here's where we actually can see a picture. I always like these because you can get a really great picture, and you can see where our non-assessment revenue comes from. Primarily, obviously, chargeable services is a full third of that non-assessment revenue. Permit fees and lease processing, both almost just about equal. Laundry revenue just a little behind that, and all of those other areas to lesser degrees. But again, chargeable services, permit fees, and lease processing being the largest areas. Let's move on. Here are the expenses. Not surprisingly, employee compensation and related expenses such as benefits, et cetera, is a full third of our expenses every year. And insurance is a second, with, interestingly, this time outside services coming in almost tied with insurance. And partly that's because we have had to outsource some of the services. So not surprisingly, while we were ahead in employee compensation, we were a little bit higher in outside services. But again, you can take a peek and see where each of those areas fit in. Moving on. We always look at the non-operating. First, we looked at operating. That's, what we anticipate. Non-operating is the replacement funds, which we always have to have a sufficient amount. Garden Villa Fund, the disaster fund, and the unappropriated expenditures fund. And unappropriated expenditures is a nice way of saying contingency. That's for what we don't know is going to happen, but we better leave something in the bank. And so if you look across the bottom, compare it to the top, you will see that every single category wound up slightly better at the end of the year, or at least at the end of November, which is what these statements are for, than they started out at the year, and that's what we like to see, that we're keeping up with those. And moving on. Here you look at them in a graph, and it's just kind of interesting to see over a period of 5 years how those funds have increased, decreased, et cetera. And you can see that the replacement funds have grown, which they need to. These community facilities are aging, and we have to make sure that we know we can anticipate replacements. The disaster fund, as you can see, went down in 2021. That was to help pay that insurance premium that was so huge. Was taken from part of it was taken from the disaster fund, which is that is certainly a disaster. So it was a permissible expense. It's being reimbursed. But in fact, the disaster fund, when it was first established, we did not have earthquake insurance at all, and therefore the disaster fund was designed to cover that and needed a little higher balance than it does now because we do carry earthquake insurance. So while we might still need some more should there be a real disaster, we don't need quite as much as was anticipated at first. So enjoy that. Across the top, that very, very thin kind of olive green line across the top, that's the Garden Villa Recreation Room Fund. And people in Garden Villa buildings do pay a special assessment of a few dollars a month to make sure that those rooms can stay maintained. And as we move on to the very last side, this is the resale history. Last year, 2022 was slightly slower than the year before. There were fewer resales. One never knows why. Some anticipate that having to do with the increasing interest rates, and yet we hear from realtors that 70 to 80% of people don't have a mortgage, so the increasing interest rates shouldn't be affecting that. So I'm not quite sure where that comes from, but those things come and go. The bottom line is that our values are holding and slightly going up. When we see them taking a big jump in one of the assessments here, when you see it going from 2021 to 2022 looking like a huge jump, sometimes we have to keep in mind that there are some very high-priced units at over $1 million, and when you have 3 or 4 of them in 1 month, that can skew the average. So keep that in mind, but know that we are doing well, our values are holding, and that concludes the report.
Great.
We didn't meet, just to remind people, we did not meet in January. According to our new policy, we are meeting every other month. It doesn't mean we don't have a financial report, but it means we don't have a report from the Finance Committee. So we will have our first meeting of 2023 the first Tuesday of February at 1:30 in the afternoon, right here in the boardroom.
Okay, thank you, Donna. All right, next we'll have the Architectural Control and Standards Committee. Jim?
And because of our holiday schedule we had and had the meetings at different times, the December 19th meeting was, the report was given on December 20th at the third board. So nothing new. Our next meeting will be January 23rd at 9:30 a.m. in the boardroom as well as virtual.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, missed that. What's going on with Third Maintenance and Construction Committee, Ralph?
Well, our last meeting was January 9th, and at that time we considered 2 requests for red curbs for carport access convenience. Both of them were rejected because of the overall adverse effect on the already tight parking situation in Third and a lack of any compelling safety concerns. There was a request for updated larger mailboxes, which would meet the current USPS code. Some of our mailboxes now do not meet the current code. They did when they were put in, but not now.
3 for advanced options.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We're good. We're listening.
Crosstalk.
Yes.
Let's see, we moved to replace the previous in-wall replacements, the ones that do not meet the code currently, with later in-wall replacement units for 6 manor buildings that 5 of them in particular that requested that. They wanted a freestanding larger unit. We did not approve that. They were given the option, however, to upgrade the boxes above what we offered to put in at their additional expense. And Mr. Ian Barnett agreed to work with the members of that were making that motion if they desire to proceed with it. Mr. Major updated the committee on the existing solar installations on 12 of our 3-story buildings. The actual return on investment was thought to be, well, on what we have now will be about 12 years. And we're just about there. He also reported that installation of new similar units would cost about $300,000 each, but would take about double the time to recover our costs on it due to new regulations, and particularly regarding the rates for exporting excess power to SCE. And also they are requiring, I think it was in April, that storage batteries be a part of any new installations. And the storage battery life is about half or a little less than half of the solar panel expected life. So they'd have to be reported, and that would even delay the return on investment again. Also discussed the current status of the Shepherd's Crook perimeter fence, because GRF and United Action, it's not necessary for Third to continue. So there was a motion made and approved that would go on to the full board probably this afternoon or sometime today to cancel any further installation by Third for this 2023 year. The next regular M&C committee meeting is presently scheduled for 1:30 p.m. Monday, March 6th in this boardroom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Next, we'll hear about the Landscape Committee. Ira?
So the Landscape Committee met a little late in January, on January 13th. Basically, Head of Landscaping discussed the continued installation of the new controllers, which will help fix some of the complaints that we've been getting, or you've just recently got, with regards to overwatering, underwatering, watering at the wrong time, as there was also discovered some crosstalk between Southern California Gas and our old controllers. This will be remedied. They were turning them on and off every time they read their own meters. So that's an issue that will go away with the cloud-based controllers, and those affected will be are next on the list to be changed out to eliminate that problem as soon as possible. Also, we had a presentation, the first of several from DUDEC, which is taking care of the trees in our community, not taking care of in the sense of pruning them or anything else, but they're analyzing what trees we have, their expected life, when they're declining, and this was more to get community input on any particular types of concerns that the community may have with regards to trees. So they could look at that when they analyze basically our inventory, the condition of trees, the species of trees, and try to develop a plan to balance all that out moving forward when we have a tree that's going to be is failing or will fail at a particular time, to replace that with a more optimum species of tree that would be requiring less maintenance, less mess, less water, all those things moving forward, so we don't have more problems in the future. This will also give us, hopefully, no one species being more than 5%. We had a couple identified that were, but over time this will be reduced. Therefore, if we have an insect problem or disease problem, we will not end up losing too many trees because of that. And our next meeting will be coming up pretty quickly, February 2nd at 9:30, right here in the boardroom.
Great. Thanks, Ira. Don, you have a quick update for us regarding water?
I do. What we learned is that all you have to do is film a very in-depth panel discussion on the dire water conservation issue that we have and have it televised on TV6 every Sunday and Wednesday for the whole month of January, and immediately you correct an over 1,200 year drought, the worst we've had. I just want to share with everybody, the exception is what we've just had the last few days, few weeks. The rule is we're going to go back to being water thirsty again. So I just want to commend all of our residents for the efforts you've done. We have reduced our residential water use by 19% over the past year, and that's sustained for a full year. So just keep doing what you're doing. We don't introduce new things. You're doing it right. And we've saved money, we've saved water, and in the future that will really be helpful. We will be meeting next week, and primarily next week on January 26th at 2 o'clock in the Elm Room. We'll be focusing more, although we usually don't, we'll be focusing more on landscape and watering, because that is turning out to be something we really are getting some benefits from. Not having had to water for a few weeks, we'll have some money to put into drought-tolerant plantings. So all in all, it's a very positive thing. And again, thank you to everybody for their efforts, and Mother Nature as well.
Thanks, Donna. Right, and finally, we have the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. This committee last met on Tuesday, December 27th, when we discussed several policies, including the common area policy that we had talked about with patios, breezeways, walkways. We also talked about the appeals policy and the pet policy, and discussed some updates to the committee charter, as well as how we can better handle noise-related issues. This committee will next meet 1 week from today on Tuesday, January 24th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. We plan to continue our discussion on the appeals, pet, and other policies as we look to make them more clear, complete, and relevant. So that's it for the third committees. Now we'll move on to the agenda item 15, where we'll share our monthly GRF committee updates, starting with the GRF Community Activities Committee. This committee, also known as CAC, last met on Thursday, January 12th, where updates were shared by staff regarding community events. Staff also mentioned that the M&C department is currently performing a walkthrough of all GRF facilities to determine what, if any, facilities maintenance is warranted. Staff also mentioned that the Performing Arts Center is looking for volunteer ushers, so feel free to reach out to a recreation department if you're interested in being an usher for our PAC. And they mentioned that yearly maintenance on Pool 2 will be completed within the next couple of weeks, after which staff will start maintaining Pool 4. So Pool 2, which is currently closed, should open up in a couple of weeks, and then Pool number 4 will be closed for a bit while they do their yearly maintenance. The committee then discussed and approved receiving donations of a printing press and mat cutter for the Clubhouse 4 art room, a long arm quilting machine for the Clubhouse 4 sewing room, and Stella, which is the name of the baby gray whale art project that the Art Association painted for a project commissioned by the El Toro Water District in collaboration with the Wyland Foundation. This GRFCAC will next meet on Thursday, February 9th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. And moving on, we'll next talk about the GRF Finance Committee. Donna?
Yes, the Finance Committee met on December 21st of last year, and primarily that meeting consisted of an educational presentation by their financial advisors on their current investments. The committee meets every other month, and therefore they will be meeting again in February.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Next, we have the GRF Media and Communications Committee.
Yes, I want to thank Eileen Pollan for giving my report. I only have 2 things to add. One is on the broadband services subscriptions. We have 23 subscriptions that are expiring this year with an anticipated annual rate increase between 4% and 15%. And some of the subscriptions include C-SPAN, Turner Network, Stingray Music, and Fox Cable. Also, upcoming meetings. The next Media and Communications meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 22nd at 1:30 in the boardroom. Note that this is an open meeting. The next Broadband Ad Hoc Committee meeting is a closed meeting, and it's scheduled for Tuesday, January 24th. At 10 a.m. And the next website ad hoc committee meeting, which is also closed, is scheduled for Tuesday, January 31st at 10 a.m.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks, Chris. I'll talk about that website one here in a little bit. Okay. Ralph, you have any updates on GRF MNC?
The GRF MNC committee, get my speaker on or my phone on, mic on here. The GRF MNC committee met twice in December, just a couple of days apart. It met on the 12th on a special meeting and on the 14th for the regular meeting. And I think I covered both of those in our meeting that occurred a couple of days later. I would like to clarify one thing, however, which seems to be misunderstood by a number of people. In the December 12th meeting, the committee voted to recommend to the full board to terminate consideration of the SCE charge point program, and I believe that has been done. Now, it's not that we have voted to end any consideration of EV charging, just that that particular program didn't make it. So we're still looking for other programs, other ways to meet that commitment. Next meeting is, I think, I'm not sure when the next meeting is. February 8th is the next meeting.
Great. Okay, thanks. And thanks for that clarification about EVs. Appreciate it. Any updates with GRF Landscaping? Is that you or did they not meet? I can't remember.
It's been before Christmas, so I'm...
that was Nick. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I messed up, and they haven't met for a while. So I'll add them to my bottom of the list. My mistake. Sorry, Ira.
No problem.
Just want to make sure you're awake. How about an update of the Laguna Woods traffic hearings, Jules? You have an update for us?
There were no meetings this month.
Okay. Great.
There is another meeting tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thanks, Jules. And next we have the website ad hoc committee. The website ad hoc committee has been created to support an effort led by the Media and Communications Department to update LagunaWoodsVillage.com website so it's more modern and useful. The intent is that once it's completed, the updated website will have a front end that's available to anyone in the world that might want to learn about Laguna Woods Village, and also have what we were now terming a resident portal, which will contain all the information that a homeowner or resident needs that will be password protected. So that's kind of what's going to happen. This resident portal will be integrated closely with the new village computer system, often referred to as the ERP system, once that's implemented, which will allow residents to get up-to-date status of their requests, activities, and invoices on their portal. This committee last met on Thursday, December 29th, where the committee discussed what information should be available to anyone interested in the village, meaning the non-password protected information. So one of the things, for example, that we discussed, should our CC&Rs be available for anybody to look at, kind of thing, or should they be constrained to just owners? Those are the types of discussions we're having. So we're just kind of thinking about the information on the website. Just getting a new website is all well and good, but if the information isn't well presented, it won't be any good. So this team is trying to look at both the tool itself and the information within it. This website ad hoc committee, as Chris mentioned, will next meet on Tuesday, January 31st, where we're going to review the vendor proposals that were received to build the tool and consider which one to choose to develop the updated website. And finally, the following GRF committees have not met since the last third board meeting on December 20th, so there's no updates for these. GRF Landscaping Committee, sorry. Did I miss one, Ralph?
I'll give a little update on the ad hoc committee for the first Clubhouse 1 decoration. The beautification program, we have not met as a committee, but there's been communication going on back and forth between the committee and our interior designer. So with a number of the, let's say, service facilities, sinks, countertops, so forth, have been pretty well concluded, and they're at the point of talking about color palettes, and it looks like it's going to be a symphony in soft blues and neutral tones. So that's what you can have to look forward to. The committee, I want to say, the committee is working. Things are going on, but just haven't met in a formal sense.
Okay, good, thanks. And apologize for skipping you if I shouldn't have. Yeah. Again, GRF committees that haven't met since December 20th. GRF Security and Community Access Committee last met October 31st and is scheduled to next meet on February 27th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The Disaster Preparedness Task Force last met on November 29th and is scheduled to next meet on Tuesday, January 31st at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. The Mobility and Vehicles Committee last met on December 7th. And next meeting is Wednesday, February 1st at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The Information Technology Advisory Committee, or ITAC, last met on December 9th and will next meet on Friday, January 27th. As Ira mentioned to me, the GRF Landscape Committee last met December 14th, and the next meeting is Wednesday, February 8th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The Compliance Ad Hoc Committee last met on November 30th, and next meeting is to be determined. The GRF Strategic Planning Committee last met October 3rd. The next meeting is to be determined. And the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee last met July 25th, and the next meeting is to be determined. And talking with Bunny Carpenter, the president of GRF Board, I think she and her board are looking at whether some of these compliance, strategic planning, insurance ad hoc committee are still needed. I believe the compliance is one that's still happening, but definitely the strategic planning and ad hoc, they're looking at whether those committees are still needed in our overall effort to try to reduce committees where possible. And that concludes our committee reports. We're now at agenda item 16th, where this board will be looking at any items that they want to put on a future board meeting. So far on the list that we have two. One is after 28-day review for a couple items, the revised architectural standard number 31 for washers and dryer installations, and the updates to the third care and maintenance of patios, balconies, breezeways, and walkways policy. Anybody have any other future agenda items they would like to add to the list? Okay, seeing none. I'm looking at Kush, don't see his hand up. Okay, so we'll continue thinking about this as the month goes by, and if there are any others, we can add it during agenda prep. And we're now getting close to the end on agenda item 17, directors' comments. This is where we just kind of go around the room and ask the directors if they have any last comments they'd like to share today. Andy, again, welcome. Hope that you enjoyed your first board meeting. You have any final comments you'd like to share? And if you do want to turn your microphone on before you speak, just so that folks on Zoom can hear you.
The devil is in the details.
That's definitely
all I
true.
want to say.
Okay, thanks. That is true. Jules, any final comments?
Yes, I have a few final comments.
Okay.
I want to get back to the point, and I object to the fact that I was cut off before I had a chance to make the major point that I want to make. And that is, our police units don't like to be criticized. I criticize them, and they're now getting...
I am going to cut you off. So, any other final comments?
Yes.
Right.
I object to the fact that the boards regularly simply rubber stamp decisions made by staff. And while some staff decisions are extremely important and we should follow them, for example, if Treasury says we should put our money into T-bills and we decide to hit the stock market, that's pretty reckless and we shouldn't be doing that. If Kurt tells us we have to clean up and re-landscape a steep slope because a heavy rain will cause a mudslide, and we ignore that, and somebody gets hurt as a result of a mudslide, we are in trouble. We should follow our staff. But we should not follow our staff when staff is made up, particularly compliance, which have regularly violated violated our computers, our members' rights.
Right, and if you have been able to attend some of the previous meetings, we have turned off the recommendations as per some of the discussions that you and I and other board members have had on that. So we aren't getting any recommendations anymore. Anything else?
No, I have
Thanks, Jules. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Ira, any comments from you?
Only that I'm happy to see we're moving forward in some of these resolutions and modernizing and making it easier for the community to get their business done. And that's it.
Great. Thanks, Ira. Ralph?
No additional comments, thank you.
Okay. Jim?
No additional comments.
Okay. Chris?
No comments, thank you.
No comment.
All right. Kush, you have anything you want to share?
No, thank you, but I'm happy to say that I'm feeling much better, and hopefully I should be attending some meetings soon.
Okay. We hope so too. I'm glad to hear you're doing better. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone from staff have any comments they want to share? All right. All right. I have no comments myself, so with that, we'll conclude our business for the open meeting. So we will now recess for 12 minutes. Have a working lunch at our executive session. And so thank you all for participating. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And we'll look forward to continue working for you. Thanks.